as I did, and he sat with me and he said, you don't have to do this. Which at the time I thought was interesting. Oh, wow, I guess I should consider this. But there I was the next day speaking at a podium, and it was a good time. Honestly, aside from like a bunch of stuff, it was a good time. Every faith is complicated. We had this really great leader for our little youth group named Tom Conity. He used to try to get people kind of riled up because we were pretty square. I don't know if you could guess that from it being Westchester County, New York in the 90s and early 2000s. But he would always be dancing in the aisles and people would look at him like he had 6 heads. But I appreciated it, a little bit of energy. I went to Portugal as a kid. Half my family's Portuguese. Well, really just my dad and his side. Oh, awesome, amazing, yeah. The Costa means of the coast in Portuguese, but you don't care, and that's fine. You don't have to. Just remember the space. When I went to Portugal, we went to the Church of St. Anthony. He was the saint I was named after. My confirmation name was John, which they thought was for John the Baptist, but it was really John Lennon from the Beatles. And I remember I went to that church in Portugal. I think it was in Lisbon, and people were like, there was like basically like their version of a gospel choir singing. I was like, you can emote? I had no idea. Anyway, I wrote this song during another storm. This was a storm for my friends back in Texas, but it's called Honest to God. Well, if I'm being honest with me, if I'm being honest with me, if I'm being honest with me, we're barely holding it together. If I'm being honest with you, if I'm being honest with you, if I'm being honest with you, I'm not impressed talking about the weather. And if I'm being honest to God, if I'm being honest to God, if I'm being honest to God, I'd consider signing back up. They just have to allow a few dissensions. But it was easy being in the church, making mom happy, looking at my friends, waiting for the snacks, going to confession, lying to the priest, or just coming up with things to say. I've been bad, I didn't brush my teeth just the other day. Talk back to my dad, he wouldn't look the other way. Never, he wouldn't look the other way. Hey, Hail Mary, and if I'm being honest to God, if I'm being honest to God, if I'm being honest to God, and if I'm being honest with me, if I'm being honest with me, if I'm being honest with me, we're barely holding it together. And if I'm being honest to you, if I'm being honest with you, if I'm being honest with you, I'm not impressed talking about the weather. I don't care that it snowed by your house, even though it never does. Enjoy your time inside. Look, Lord knows I do. If I'm being honest, if I'm being honest, I'd consider it. If I'm being honest to God, if I'm being honest to God, if I'm being honest to God, I'd consider holding it together.